good morning, everyone. I'm Dr Nick Ede. I'm filling in for my CEO, Leslie Chong, today, who has a particularly nasty virus, quite a severe case of COVID. But it gives me great pleasure to fill in for her to present to you today, detailing Imugene's platforms and specifically our oncolytic virus, which can be described as a good life-saving virus as opposed to the nasties like flu and COVID. Now, it's a virus that selectively targets and breaks apart cancer cells. Now, on dosing, it also activates the immune system to finish the job to clear the cancer cells where they may have been present in the patient. Now, one of these immune system cells are called T cells, and they are the assassins of the immune system, which hunt down and eliminate cells that have either been infected by a virus or infected by a cancer which has mutated. The T cells need to target and or flag on infected cells to enable them to go after it. Now, in the last 10 years since I joined Imugene back in 2013, the science has delivered the fourth pillar of cancer therapy called immunotherapy, where T cells can be engineered to target specific flags on cancerous cells. And today I'm going to talk about a particular flag called CD19, which is a flag or a target that only exists on blood cancer cells. And so please remember that fact as I move through my presentation. Now, this revolutionary treatment is called CAR-T immunotherapy and is curing blood or liquid cancers like leukemias and lymphomas at an astonishing levels, upwards of 80% to the patients that receive them. It's a multi-billion-dollar market. Yet blood or liquid cancers only represent 10% of the $500 billion per annum oncology market as a whole. So as I launch into my presentation today, I want you to imagine the what if. What if you could use a cancer-specific targeting virus to infect the other 90% of the oncology market, being the solid tumours, to open up the entire field to this revolutionary treatment called CAR-T treatment. The field is solid cancers like breast, brain, bile duct, stomach, colon, pancreatic, lung. And then they can be eradicated using these solid cancers with the same CD19 CAR-T and other CD19 targeting cancer drugs that have so successfully to date treated leukemias and lymphomas. So just imagine that and how much that could be worth. So with that preamble, let us begin. Here's my disclaimer. So Imugene, we have a market cap of $805 million as of last week and a good cash runway to conduct all of our planned clinical trial work over the next 12 to 18 months. We have 4 platform technologies in CAR-T cell therapy, our own oncolytic virus, which I'll explain today, can be combined with the cell therapy to produce a platform called Oncolytics, and a cancer vaccine platform called B-cell immunotherapies. Importantly, we have our own manufacturing facility in North Carolina in the US, which is particularly important for cell therapies. A lot of cell therapy companies suffer because they have to get in line and wait for their drugs to be manufactured. And we have a beautiful cell manufacturing facility in North Carolina. We treat all cancers now. Up until last year, we only treated solid tumours, but with the acquisition of our CAR-T cell therapy called Azer-cel from Precision Bio last year, we also now are going to be treating blood cancers. We have 5 clinical studies ongoing, 4 of them under an FDA IND, both in Australia and in the US. And most importantly, all of our platform technologies have long patent lives, which is really what our asset that we own as part of the company. All of this is done under a pretty amazing leadership group. We've recruited executives in the US that have over 150 years of combined experience. And they themselves have been involved in drug development where they've had 13 FDA-approved drugs come to market from. So they've been involved from the beginning to the marketing of the drug all the way through. And they come from a wide variety of well-respected big pharma and big biotech companies, mainly in the US. So let me talk about our CAR T therapy. It's an allogeneic CAR T therapy called azer-cel, which targets that flag I described called CD19. Now, those successful CAR T therapies that I described in my introduction are all what we call autologous CAR Ts, where the patient with leukemia or lymphoma comes into the hospital, they have their own T cells removed from themselves, and then those T cells are taken away and engineered to go after and target the CD19 on their blood cancer cells. And that process can take up to 6 to 7 weeks. And unfortunately, during that time, many of them actually get sick and relapse to the point where they actually can't even receive their expensive autologous CAR T therapy. We believe, and many others now in our field are believing that, well, why should those patients wait? Why can't we take from a healthy donor's T cells, engineer them to target the CD19 and other targets on cancer cells, such that the patient can receive them straight away. And this is what our azer-cel, our allogeneic CD19 CAR T therapy actually does. It's a much more efficient and cost-effective process to deliver these life-saving drugs to the patient. Now, as part of the clinical development of this drug, it's been in multiple phase 1 trials already, where we've seen with 84 patients treated with azer-cel some really outstanding response rates and complete response cure rates in both lymphomas and leukemias to date. But more importantly, in lymphomas in particular, one of the earlier rounds of therapy those patients may receive is the autologous CAR T treatments. And quite a lot of those patients unfortunately fall off that treatment. And if we then retreat them with our allogeneic CAR T called azer-cel, we see an amazing 83% overall response rate. And this is what we're now taking into a final bridging study in 2024 with a view that at the end of 2024, we will have a meeting with the FDA who will sit down, meet with them, we'll talk about how we take the drug to market and set up what we call a registrational pivotal trial in 2025 to run that through to approval after that trial is completed. So this is what we're doing in 2024 with this drug, and we're very excited about it. Now, as I started my presentation, we talked about viruses that can only infect cancer cells, and then we talked about, well, what if we could flag something with that virus so that the CAR T cell could then treat that cancer. Let me introduce our oncolytic virus, CF33, which we licensed from City of Hope a number of years back now. So it's an oncolytic virus which has been engineered, completely engineered from the ground up to when it's infused into the patient, whether it's injected intratumorally or infused intravenously, it searches out, targets only cancer cells, replicates and grows only in the cancer cells such that when it does that, the cancer cell blows up, bursts and releases more of the virus and also the insides of the cancer cell, which alert the immune system to the presence of the mutations that cause the cancer in the first place. And there's been a number of companies that have taken oncolytic viruses to market, and we're looking forward to fast-tracking our oncolytic virus through to the market as we run through our clinical trials, which are well advanced now. We've run through our clinical trial in solid tumours, in a variety of different solid tumours as we dose escalate to find the optimal biological dose, and we're now zeroing in on this optimal biological dose in 2024, which is enabling us to expand into specific solid tumour indications. We in fact got fast-track designation late last year from the FDA after seeing some of the early data that we produced in bile duct cancer, cholangiocarcinoma patients, that we were able to get fast-track designation from the FDA, and this is one of the indications that we'll be expanding our trial out into in 2024. Why? Because we saw an outstanding result in 2023 with a bile duct cancer patient. And I won't go into the details of the scans, but essentially from the left, where the patient had a severe lesion, which we injected with our oncolytic virus. Over a number of weeks, that lesion completely disappeared to be completely absent from the patient. And ultimately, that patient has now going on well over a year now with no cancer at all after being treated with the oncolytic virus. That's just one example, but it clearly shows us, with a number of other examples I could show, that the virus does selectively target the cancer cell, grow in the cancer cell, and then explode the cancer cell and clear it, and with the help of the immune system that comes in to clear up any mess that's left behind. Now, one of the aspects of the oncolytic virus is that we can program it. We can engineer it to also, when it's growing inside the cancer cell, shuttle up any sort of flag that we want onto that solid tumour cell. And we've successfully done this with both a protein which allows us to image where our oncolytic virus is in the cancer cell, or we call it the Oncolytics platform. Imagine if we could program it to shuttle up that CD19 flag that I talked about at the beginning, which only occurs in blood cancers. Doesn't exist on solid tumours at all, but what if we could use our selective oncolytic virus to only target the solid tumour cells, and then as it starts to replicate in those solid tumours, shuttle up to the surface this CD19 flag, which is the target for those revolutionary CAR-T therapies that I described earlier. And this is exactly what we're doing. We've done all of our preclinical work and we're in the clinic now. So as I've just said, the virus infects the cell, shuttles up to the surface the CD19 target, which then makes it completely vulnerable to attack by these revolutionary CD19 targeting drugs. And this is what we've started to run in the clinic. We call it our OASIS study, and we've completed our safety lead-in, which the FDA required us to do, where we've done a little bit of dose escalation, and we were able to show that the new virus with the CD19 transgene, we call it, incorporated into it, was safe and effective. And now we are gearing up. Just a couple of weeks ago, we announced that the committees at the FDA have green-lighted us to commence a combination with our next patients where we dose them with the virus, wait a few days, and then give them a CD19 targeting drug. Now, we could have started with CD19 targeting CAR-T therapy, but we decided to use a CD19 targeting drug marketed by Amgen called Blincyto or blinatumomab. It's an antibody drug that specifically targets the CD19 on blood cancer cells and draws in the immune system, those T-cell assassin cells, to come in and wipe out the blood cancer. But now that we've placed that CD19 target on the solid tumours, this drug can be repurposed for solid tumours and provide Amgen, for example, with currently their drug-only market services 10% of the oncology market. With the success we hope we'll have in 2024, 2025 with this combination, we should be able to open up the other 90% of the oncology market to Amgen and their Blincyto drug. So we're excited for us. Hopefully they're excited for us as well. And we're obviously, we'll be talking to them regularly. Now, as I've said, we also have a CD19 CAR-T called Azer-cel, which we licensed from Precision Bio. And we have plans, obviously, since we own a CAR-T, a CD19 CAR-T targeting drug ourselves, to take that into the clinic with our virus also. And we're currently doing preclinical work to do what we need to do to prepare our dossier for the FDA. And we've already seen outstanding clinical results where, non-clinical results, I should say, where the combination of the virus and our own Azer-cel gives 100% cell killing in some quite difficult to treat cancer cell lines. So we're very upbeat about what this could be producing for us. So let me, in the last few minutes, just touch a little bit on our B-cell immunotherapies. So we started off as a company that created cancer vaccines, which essentially work like a vaccine, where we vaccinate the patient and induce them to produce antibodies that can go after and target their cancers. And we have finished phase 2 with a HER2 targeting drug, it's quite successfully, and also we have a cancer vaccine called PD-1vax, which is about to start in colorectal cancer, and we're looking forward to running that in the UK and Australia this year. And in fact, it made quite headlines in the UK back in January on their tabloids. So the rest of 2024, 2025 is an exciting time for the company. Many milestones and announcements based on what I've talked to you about today, about our oncolytics, our virus, and our ongoing azer-cel clinical trials. So getting back to the beginning, I think Imugene's an excellent value proposition with a lot of value inflection points coming up in the next 18 months. And I encourage you to take a much closer look at us, and thank you for your attention today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nick. Firstly, congratulations on the great work you do. Cancer's been drawn into a stark focus of late. We all know the reasons behind that. We have a number of questions coming through. In the time we have left, we have about 3 minutes left. So this is quite popular by our audience. Tip, if you like the question, you like it, it comes to the top of my list. Don't do it when I'm speaking because they move around, it makes it hard for me. How excited are you about the possibility of CF33, and when will we receive updates regarding the progress of phase 1 study?
Yeah, so we're very excited, and we look to major oncology conferences to provide updates to the market. Our next oncology conference is in 2 weeks' time at the American Association of Clinical Research, the AACR, and so as well as there'll be others later in the year like ASCO and ESMO that we'll target. And so typically it'll be the major conferences where we'll look to provide the market with updates.
Right, this one did move around, which is great, but has the company attracted attention from US and institutional investors?
Yes. I mean, out of the JP Morgan conference back in January, number of meetings, a lot of interest. We are on the radar, particularly around our oncolytics and our use of azer-cel. So all I can say is that yes, of course, we are in discussions with US-based institutions, both from a capital point of view and of course clinical point of view.
Great, thank you. Are you targeting other market clinical trial apart from the US and Australia, and makes reference to Australia's relatively small proportion of the world population?
Yes, so currently our trials are in the US and Australia, but we are, as I just said, we're opening up a trial for our vaccine targeting PD-1 in colorectal cancer in the next quarter in the UK, which has already made news in the UK, and they're very excited about the prospect of that.
Why are the allogeneic cells not rapidly rejected as foreign cells?
Because it's a great question, because the folks at Precision, and now we own it, they're molecular engineers, and they've engineered the components of the cell that makes graft versus host rejection of those cells null and void, so that we engineer the potential for the patient's immune system to eliminate those cells out of the drug.
Okay. Which cancers will initial FDA approval be approved for?
Well, as I said, we've got fast track designation for our bile duct cancer in our oncolytic virus program. So we're going to push that, but we will definitely, as I said, also we're going into a registrational trial planned to be next year in DLBCL. It's a form of lymphoma which is particularly nasty, that we'll be looking to fast track with a final registrational trial for azer-cel in 2025. So they're two examples of the many that we can go after that we're certainly zeroing on.
We do have time for one, if you're very quick, Nick. Why are we so limited in doing this research in Australia? Very good question.
Well,
or are we?
to be honest, we've raised capital. We've been able to run our programs quite efficiently in Australia. We run in both the US and Australia. I think if you've got a good story to tell, you can find the capital to run your programs. As long as you run them efficiently and don't waste your money, I think that the opportunities exist in Australia.
Great, thank you so much. What an enthusiastic supporter for cancer research. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.